My name is ByLwansta, and I create the things that I wish existed. Yeah, yeah. The artist website. Is that still a thing in 2025? When last was it a thing? Is it still a thing since streaming platforms arrived? Where, the delivery of music is outsourced to the DSPs, to the rest of the world, Is it still a thing since social media, where access to the artist has a lower barrier of entry through their tweets, through their Instagrams? What is the purpose of the artist website? In fact, what was the purpose of the artist website? The last artist website I checked out might have been Kanye's. And I mean checked out outside of me doing my own research, He's an artist who, has used his own platform to, put out his own links, that STEM player stuff, just product, the Yeezy site, even though it's more Yeezy specific and less, Kanye West, the artist brand. I mean, it's an extension, but I think it has a different function when it becomes more e-commerce, But yeah, that's the last artist website I was on. Prior to that, I was doing a bit of research to kind of understand while I was working on my own website, which I'm always doing. It's like Iron Man movies. Constantly, every Iron Man movie, there's a new Mark whatever suit of his, It's character development, artist development, human development. I like to see it. So yeah, I was just doing some research to see like what some artist websites are looking like, what functions that they serve, how I can incorporate that into my website, and they're all more or less the same. It's like a page that you visit once. I don't know how often artists or consumers and fans of artists' music go to their website to look for tour dates, because Spotify has it on their page now. And yeah, you're not going to go to their website to look for music either, because Spotify, Apple Music have the music. What else? You're not looking for connection or to hear from the artist. One, it's not a blog anymore. It's not the blog era. Someone like Frank Ocean also was making waves using like it's still a social media platform. It is his Tumblr. But I guess it's like a middle ground between social media and your own personal platform, or it's just like another Instagram, another Twitter or X, another TikTok, Tumblr. So anyway, and something that I also noticed with a lot of these artist websites, if you scroll right to the bottom, you'll see the label's logo. They have merchandise also. Oh yeah, merchandise is the one thing. But again, that's more e-commerce. So are artist websites e-commerce sites mainly? Is that maybe it? Because that makes sense, because if you think about it, you don't buy the merch off of their social media. I'm sure there's ways you can, like, yeah, whatever. But I think when you visit an artist's website, you're probably going to, look at their new capsule of merchandise and product and the likes, right? That makes a lot more sense. As far as just trying to understand the function of the artist website in modern times, right? And what made me think about this whole thing for the first time in let's see how many years, maybe 10 years, I've officially registered a ByLwansta.com domain. Which is exciting. Yay. For the last couple of years, last 10 years, I've been using the NORMVL website, which has gone through 2 domains. When I registered it, because I registered the NORMVL domain while I was still in my 2nd or 3rd year of my BA in graphic design. We are starting to learn web design, but not, really in-depth web design where like it's coding. We were using I think Adobe had like a web design platform that they since discontinued. I just don't remember what it was called. But it was very much, a hybrid of code, drag and drop, And I think because so in my third year, I got an opportunity to choose between specializing in advertising. And I thought, well, the first 2 years of my degree were that as a foundation. Specializing, I understand because I guess you're going to the next level, or adding a new skill set by pursuing multimedia design. So your web design, 3D animation, 2D animation. What else was in multimedia design? I mean, motion graphics is still in animation, sort of. But yeah, more or less that, right? So I added that to my arsenal. So while, obviously learning and doing our own assignments that were very specific to the briefs in our textbooks, I was always like exploring, okay, cool, how does one build a website? Right? How does one build a website? And the first time I attempted to build a website, I actually used that Adobe platform that I can't remember for the life of me. In fact, let me actually see if I can find it. Old Adobe website builder. I'll know the name when I see it. Muse! Adobe Muse! Ah, yes, Adobe Muse. So it's a visual no-code tool for designers to create responsive websites. So I guess there was no code. Actually, yeah, there was no code, but I mean, there were some parts of, developing the website. Like maybe if you needed to do some CSS stuff, and then you kind of tap into like a coder's mind. Adobe Muse, guys, this thing held me down. So my first website for normal was normalism.co.za. Because I don't know, I just felt like, I hated, things being predictable. Like, oh, the company is called Normal, so the website's going to be called normal.com, which it is today. And I'm very grateful. But it was normalism.co.za. And it was such a long one because even my email address was bylwansta@normalism.co.za. But anyway, we started off building that on Muse because I wanted to create like a portfolio website for the work that I was doing through Normal. I think there was some, placements of, some ByLwansta related stuff. I mean, most of our portfolio was ByLwansta's, briefs anyway. So there wasn't an immediate need to say, oh, also we have ByLwansta. Because also at that time, this was maybe around 2017, 18, I hadn't officially, with conviction, owned the being a record label aspect of the business, right? I wanted to leave the door open a little bit in case I get signed one day, and that meant waiting. And I'm not someone who enjoys waiting. I don't like the conveyor belt. I don't like queues, to the conveyor belt of blowing up. Ugh, don't waste my time, So, so normalism.co.za, we built it on Muse. And then I think Muse eventually had its own limitations. So I moved to Wix. Wix was a platform, drag and drop, which was really interesting and exciting. It also had some limitations, but I think it being web-based was also exciting. I didn't need to download software. This was still normalism.co.za. And then, as years would go by, I would, I'm always curious. I love the internet, man. I'm always curious. I'm trying to figure out how certain things are achieved and what's possible on the platforms that I'm using and what isn't. And then I find maybe certain layouts, certain plugins, certain features that, while watching tutorials that don't work on an Adobe Muse, don't work on a Wix.com, And then I came across Elementor, right? And WordPress. So both of them at the same time, So I'd always heard about WordPress, but I thought it was coding and the likes. And I wasn't someone who knew anything about coding per se, or I wasn't an expert anyway. So I discovered Elementor and WordPress. I found a way to install Elementor through WordPress, through my host, which was AfriHost. And then, normalism.co.za still. And then I think as we got to 2022, where the business started to grow, MK joined, Debza joined, and then, I think I was in a mind, and then we registered Normal Sound as its own subsidiary, Normal Ideas, the agency, as its own subsidiary, and Normal Agenda as its own subsidiary for our events. And then this restructuring made me think, okay, maybe it's time to go grab that .com. That because it just seemed to make sense. And one of my friends, Olutu, always got our domain wrong. I was like, yeah, let me just shorten it. I don't know what he would say, but he would always text it to me wrong or get the email account wrong. I was like, okay, let's make it easier. Anyway, let's go back to artist websites for a moment, right? I've just finished designing and kind of soft launching the ByLwansta.com website. And if we're speaking about, what the function and purpose of an artist website today, right? I consider myself an artist entrepreneur. Again, because I understand the business and the multiple streams of income, that are available to me as a, creator of the things that I wish existed, as someone who isn't going to be limited to one output, which is just music. Music is always the main thing. It's what has, grown everything else that I'm able to do, So the artist website, the ByLwansta.com website specifically now, I've been, through all the research I've been doing over the years, trying to understand. I think the artist website very much linked to that idea of the e-commerce, but more. The artist website is your storefront, is your opportunity to control how people experience you for the first time, right? And a lot of the time it won't be through your website, it will be through your social media. But if someone has to come to your home, if someone has to come to that show that you curated from scratch, if someone had to, meet you, you have control over what you're wearing, you have control over what you say, and what font it comes out of your mouth as, you have so much more control than what Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook give you, because they have structures that serve their consumer and how they want their consumer to consume. Consume is a funny word. But how they want people to engage with their platform. And when you become an artist entrepreneur and you get your website, you kind of have to think like how a Facebook and an Instagram and a Twitter are thinking, where you're thinking about how you want people to engage with your content, right? So the ByLwansta.com website, I'll show it on the screen as well. Firstly, I've never had a logo type for me. So I do like this particular typeface. I just can't remember for the life of me what it is, but I know the web version I'm using, not of this specific font, but I'm using Montserrat, right? It's closer to the one we use for normal, which is Silka. So we use Montserrat as just like the web version. So yeah, get on the ByLwansta website. The header or hero shows you maybe the latest thing you can engage with. So the first episode of the Creating the Things I Wish Existed podcast series, and then you can also pre-order the vinyl. These are the first things I want people to engage with. And there's my face in case you need a reminder whose website you're on, right? Then you scroll down, and again, we're talking about it as artist entrepreneurship. So that means like really tapping in and zeroing in on everything I have to offer as a person like myself, a multifaceted creator. So like the various things I have to offer in my artistry and my practice. So I'm a musician, or rather my work as a musician, as a cultural producer, as a designer, as an author, right? And then you can hover on each of these things. Guys, web design is trial and error. If you are self-taught, it's trial and error, man. You just come across, you look for inspiration, you go to Pinterest, you go to awards to see what's going on, and then you try see, oh, this is cool, I want to try this, and you try find the right tutorial. Half of it is tutorials, so I like this effect of just being able to hover and then click on things, right? And then below that is where we get back to the main thing, which is the e-commerce aspect, which is where we get our storefront, the Chip is Stale vinyl, which oh wow, where is it? Always got to bring it out. pre-order. There's a link in the description that you can check out to pre-order this. Only 20 will be available for the first batch, so get yours. Anyway, so yeah. And then like when we go back to our hero, we go to latest episode, where we get the latest episode, write-up, a title, a link to the pre-order, which I just showed you, and then a link to YouTube. Then on the far right, the link to the streaming platforms that have it, right? And our hero also would have maybe the latest episode, or rather we'll say episode 2 after this drops. And then if we go back to home, guys, also having a website is like owning a home, man. Constant need to maintain it. Like sometimes the website does funny things. Like when I click on my, what's this thing? My menu at the top right, and then my icons are huge. Like that's not what I designed. What's going on? And then it stops doing that after a while. Then I just need to find a way to figure out and troubleshoot what's wrong with it. Why does it do that? What information changed and stuff. Sometimes you just need to update your plugins, But yeah, that's a little bit annoying. But again, so is a leak in your roof. And I like the fact that I likened it to a home, because it is a digital home for you as an artist, your artistry, where you can now flesh out the other aspects of yourself, because on social media, a lot of the time people sign up based on what you have shown or sold them, and stuff. So the moment you start doing something else, there's a potential that you can lose the people who bought in based on one thing. So if you already embrace so many aspects of you as an artist, then you're probably fortunate, and people can learn that these different aspects of you are just different entryways. But you must always have a main thing. I think my main thing is music. I almost sounded unsure because I guess I've been tapping into various things: cultural production, writing a book, hosting an event, and now doing this. But again, only reason I'm here today is because of music, right? So yeah, man. What else? Okay, well, if you go to our music tab, you find, my releases in the last 10 years. Whoa, Normal Mixtape and The Chip Is Stale are 10 years apart. That's interesting. And then music videos, and then some of our notable achievements. It's like an EPK also, in a way. It's like artist website, e-commerce, EPK, that's really the purpose it can serve. But also I'm thinking about potentially adding like a blog aspect, just, because blogs obviously have content that comes out that keeps people visiting your platform, because again, the challenge with the artist website is its staticness. It's stable, but it's also static in that what else do you do with it to get people to come and visit it, right? Like if you have opinions that you share through your blog, then people can come back and for that. If you have resources, if you have products, all these things are ways to bring people to your website, And yeah, I think at its core and conclusion, it's about ownership, right? There's a reality where Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, all these platforms just shut down completely. This is why it's important to develop your mailing list, but also have a place where everybody can meet digitally. Ideally, you always want your digital platform to just be the first touch point before you pivot people into a physical space, because that's where I think it matters the most. It's multi-sensory. People can smell, taste, touch, hug, hear. They can do everything in a physical space. And I think that's how you retain those meaningful moments in your memories, because they triggered all your senses. It was multi-sensory as opposed to just maybe screen, eyes, hearing, and touching your keyboard, right? So yeah, the artist website, I think, still has a place in this world that we live in. You've just got to use it a lot more strategically, and you've got to use it. You've got to try to use it as frequently as possible. That is me. Oh, and one more thing. If you are very curious about how to, develop yourself as an artist, what it means to have a website, how to be intentional about your artistry, and you would like to consult with the team at NORMVL, there's a link to a Google form in the description that will, give us all the information that you have about why you want to consult now, why now, what some of your challenges are in your career, and how we can potentially help you, and just to manage expectations. So hit up that form, fill it out, and then we're taking a limited number of people consulting in the first quarter, like maybe maximum 4. We already got 1 right now, so there's 3 slots left for you to consult and hopefully get to the next level of your career in 2026. Dango.